Sometimes when you watch an anime, you don't really know what you're going to experience when watching it. That is exactly how I felt about the anime Kotaro Lives Alone. I had heard a lot of people talk about this anime, saying things like it was both wholesome and sad at the same time, or things like Kotaro competes with Boji for best boy. After watching this anime, I must say, I agree, this anime is somehow both really sad and really wholesome all at the same time, which is really strange but still awesome. And Kotaro is one of the most wholesome kids in anime. This anime will definitely get you to feel emotions you're not expecting from the type of show, but it makes you want to keep watching and see what's going to happen next. Unlike most other slice of life anime where there is a more loose story structure where pretty much anything can happen any episode, Kotaro Lives Alone has a real story that follows your traditional structure. Of course, there are your typical slice of life moments throughout the series that you were expecting, but for the most part there is a real story being told here about the characters living in this apartment complex, which is awesome because we actually see where this leads all the characters in the future. This anime really surprised me. I did not expect to love this anime as much as I did, but this series was insanely good. Somehow, I feel like this series was designed to make an adult feel something for this series. Even if you don't like Kotaro, which I think is pretty much impossible, but if you don't, there are still other characters that have lived their lives and have stories to be told that can be relatable to somebody. I personally didn't relate to anything in this series, however, I can still empathize with what the characters were going through before the story started. Kotaro Lives Alone is the perfect blend of wholesome and sad that just somehow really works well to make for the ultimate anime experience. This series also has phenomenal music that will hit at all the right moments and make you love the anime even more than you ever would have before. Before we get into the real review portion of the video, it would be awesome if you could leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. I make new anime and manga content every single week on a variety of series. All the characters in Kotaro Lives Alone are amazing. All the characters have awesome personalities. All of them actually question why a 4-year-old is moving into their neighborhood instead of just accepting him immediately. Plus, they all help Kotaro feel at home and help him to get things done as his guardians. Each one of the characters has their own backstories as well that we get to explore, and as we do, we start to realize that the people living in this apartment complex have all had pretty bad lives and are just living day by day to try and make it through life. But after all of them meet Kotaro, their lives start to look up as things start to go well for them. As we learn about all their stories and see how far they've come, it gets you to realize that no matter what the hardships someone faces in life, you can always try to be positive in life to the best of your ability. Kotaro is a boy who has gone through more struggles than any kid his age should ever have to go through. He is a kid with a very troubled past. Kotaro has had to deal with terrible parents and becoming an orphan, and as well as physical and emotional abuse. He is a child who has dealt with way too much. He clings to this cartoon character to bring him strength during life because it is the only way he would be able to go on. But despite everything life has thrown at him, he always tries to be positive and help those around him live the best lives that they can. Which is why everyone in the apartment starts to live better lives than what they used to. Kotaro is extremely smart for his age. He can recognize when someone is trying to use him for something or when someone is lying to him by just reading people well. However, despite how smart he is, he still has his fair share of childish moments that makes him feel more human and much less like a character. Despite everything this show tries to throw at you, this show is overall a pretty positive experience. There are only a few moments with the characters that get a little dark here and there, but it is still a pretty positive show. It does throw a really good message at you as well, that despite your current or past hardships, if you keep going forward, life will start to look up eventually, and so it has the message of never giving up that I really like that I think everyone should follow when going through life. All of this is what makes the character writing in this anime amazing, and it is why you should check this series out. I think the setting for Kotaro Lives Alone is perfect for setting up the type of series that this is. The setting starts off in this old dilapidated apartment building, and as we move out into town, we can see how tight-knit the community of the town is, indicating that it is a smaller area where most people live pretty comfortable lives. This contrast goes to show that the characters that we are following aren't starting off this show living their best lives. They're all going through problems that they need to have solved as they go through this series. The setting is a good starting point for this series, which sets up the dark past of all the residents. The cool part about the apartments is that as we get further along into the series, the apartments start to feel more like a comfortable home that the residents live in instead of some gross old building. This change is really interesting to me, as it goes to show that as each one of the characters grow closer together, they start to see their lives as being a lot better and they start to look forward to the future more. The setting never changes, but the feelings around the settings do, which I think is a really interesting approach to take. As for a lot of people who may have been living in the same area looking at the same sites every day, they might have started to get depressed at their lives, so we look at these characters living the same circumstances and start to look towards a better future. It makes you want to do that as well. They really went all out with the setting of the series, and it might have even been unintentional, which makes it all the better that the setting worked out so well for this series in the end. The art and animation in this series is pretty good. The animation is nothing special, but it doesn't really need to be either. This series has no action in it. This series is a more serious story following the daily lives of characters, so we don't really need to have some god tier animation like Demon Slayer has. The art though, I think is pretty good. I love all the character designs throughout the series. It gets you to know what type of people these characters are, or at least who they used to be, which is really awesome. The art actually enhances the series a lot, because if you've seen the original, no hate to the artist, but the anime definitely improves upon it, which I know is quite rare in anime, but I really mean that here. The art is actually better in the anime. The music in the series is used perfectly to help set up the emotional moments perfectly. Not only that, I think the soundtrack for the show fits really well with the overall feel of what the show is going for as well. It all just works really well. There are some moments where if there wasn't some really solid music playing in the background, I don't think it would hit as hard as it does. It would still hit, but the music enhances those scenes a lot to make them feel way more emotional. The music helps to enhance this series a lot. I highly recommend listening to the soundtrack for this series because you will find that there are a lot of really good, really emotional tracks on it. Kotaro Lives Alone is a really good series that has contrasting themes that work extremely well together. Somehow, this series was able to have some really amazing character writing that really made me want to keep watching this series to see where the characters were going to end up at the end of it. This series has a really good message that I think a lot of people should listen to because it could really help people who are going through a really hard time right now. I highly recommend this series to those who have not given this series a go yet because you will not be disappointed, I can promise you that.